Kerry from Empower, and I'm joined today by our Business Club member, Claire Cutler-Casey. Thank you for joining us, Claire. So tell us a bit more about what you do.
Hi Kerry, thanks for having me. As Kerry says, I'm Claire Cutler-Casey and I'm a kinesiologist. So that will tell you everything that you need to know about me, really. It won't, will it? So I actually have two very distinctive parts to my business. I come from a history of being a business trainer. I worked for 15 years with an organisation that supported and trained women to start and run their own businesses. And we won some ESF awards for gender equality. And I also worked for Business Link, for those of you that remember Business Link. And my whole sort of reason for being really was to support women to start and run their own businesses and to make positive changes in their own lives. Alongside that, I also trained to be a kinesiology practitioner. And kinesiology works on the same basis. It helps people to make positive changes in their own lives, but very much by listening to what their system is trying to tell them. So when people are in pain, the body is saying there's something wrong here and I need you to take notice. What we tend to do is pop a couple of painkillers, work through it. I love that phrase, let's just work through the pain. And our body goes, no, this really is a problem. And it gets to a point where in the end, emotionally or physically, we are debilitated and we can't move through. So what we do with kinesiology is we sit down and we say to the body, rather than having a conversation with the head, we say to the body, how can we help? What can we do to make this easier? So I run my kinesiology business as a clinic and I run training sessions for people to help them to learn how to support themselves. And then I also run business training for people as well, much more around what people I think would call the softer skills or the life skills. So learning things like how to negotiate, how to have difficult conversations, how to delegate, how to say no, all of those sorts of things, and how to communicate with people so that people will understand and can get involved with what you're trying to say. And I also teach some sort of quite technical things like Zoom, Eventbrite, those sorts of things, so that as a person starting and running your own business, you're well equipped emotionally, physically, and technically to be able to keep all of those balls in the air and get a good night's sleep. So one lovely package all in one.
That's fantastic. So you've sort of touched on it a bit, but what was the kind of the crux of your motivation or inspiration, if you like, to get into this and really helping others, I guess, with your business?
I think the main thing happened for me when I was about 30. When I was 21, I had a near-death illness and I actually died and was resuscitated. And at that time, now we're talking quite a few years ago, let's just put it that way. So the whole medical system was based on curing your illness, but then there was no recovery process. You know, once you weren't ill anymore, cheerio, we're not interested. So I then had this period of about 10 years where I really was lurching from moment to moment and I could feel myself just in a slow decline. I was exhausted all the time. I had a family, I had a lovely home, I had a job that I loved. I used to work for Lloyd's of London. And but I was just exhausted all the time and I couldn't take any joy or pleasure in life. And eventually I got to the point where I thought I've got to do something about this. Conventional medicine couldn't help me because of the illness that I'd had. And so I ended up going into a complementary centre really that was in the town that I lived in. And somebody recommended a kinesiology practitioner to me. And I went and had a session with her and it was a very difficult experience because talking to my body rather than talking to my mind, that was no, my mind is in charge, my mind knows all the answers. But once we got over that, which is something that I do with clients every day, I suddenly started to have a much deeper respect for the whole of me. It wasn't just about my mind and my brain, it was actually about the whole of my system. And being able to have that conversation turned my life around. You know, I'm now in a situation where I run my own business, I've got my own home, and you know, I'm a really happy bunny, and that wasn't happening for me 20 years ago. And having had that experience, I thought it would be almost remiss of me not to share that with other people because it is possible. You know, I really was at rock bottom and it is possible to turn your life around, but you need help to do that. And sometimes the biggest problem is holding up your hand and saying, actually, could somebody help me, please? But once we've got over that fear and we've found that bravery to do that, it is amazing what comes to us. And I like to be one of those people who can stand up and say, I can help you with that, actually, if you'd like some help.
Thank you, Claire. That's really, really great of you to share such a kind of personal story. And hopefully it'll inspire some others as well to think about their sort of purpose in their career, but also equally being able to open up to somebody and reach out for support if they need it.
Absolutely.
I think certainly at the moment, in the continuous lockdowns that we seem to be in, are you finding that people are reaching out to you more than they were, or are things a bit different in business at the moment?
I don't think people are reaching out more. I think they're just reaching out differently.
Right.
There's definitely a different type of honesty that's coming out now. And when I say to people, how are you doing today? I'm hearing an authenticity where before people would have just said, oh, I'm fine, which, we all know what that means. People are now saying, do you know what, I'm not doing so well today. And we're able to have conversations on a very honest and compassionate level, which actually then will help people not to slide into a really quick decline, because acknowledging that within ourselves that we're not having a particularly good day then enables us to stop for a moment, to find some support for that, and then to move on to the next thing, rather than this sort of being caught up in the internal dialogue of, oh, everybody else seems to be doing all right. And I think this is one of the it's almost one of the positives of this situation, is that I can, and you can, anybody can look at anybody else and say, do you know what, I bet they're not having a very good day either. Yeah. And that sort of communal feeling of, I don't think anybody's having a very good day today. Suddenly we don't feel alone. It doesn't mean we're having a better day, but we don't feel alone. So we don't feel that we have to manage ourselves so much. We don't have to wear so many masks. We don't have to say, yeah, I'm fine, when actually we're not.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's something that will continue after this period of lockdown has changed. I mean, I don't know how it's going to change, but once it has changed, that people will still continue to be that honest with themselves and with other people and feel comfortable saying, do you know what, I'm not having such a good day today, or I'm having a fabulous day today, whatever their story is at that time.
Yeah, I think equally it can be tricky the other way around, can't it? In the sense of, for me personally, lockdown has really not been that bad. The kids are at home, which brings its challenges, but actually we're all at home. There's way more family time. I already work for myself, for my own business, as you do. So it wasn't a big change to adapt to having to, not do the commute, not go to the office. I'd already kind of worked through a lot of that. Yeah, exactly. And I sort of sit and think, oh, well, this is all right. I don't really mind. I'm very kind of fortunate with where I live. We've got countryside walks on the doorstep and that sort of thing. And you do sometimes think, oh, I'm all right. I don't really want to either share that either, because you don't want people to think, oh, right, she's okay.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And I think it's important to be able to share both ways, because it's like the old adage, isn't it? If only we live the life we live on Facebook. To share when things are not going so well, and then to also share, even if it's the briefest glimpse of a moment when things are going well, it just adds that authenticity. And when we relate to people, we can relate to them on a very different level.
Yeah.
And we can have conversations that we wouldn't necessarily have. They don't have to be particularly deep, but you just feel like you're communicating with people, regardless of whether we're doing it like this via Zoom or, socially distanced on a dog walk. It does, and it feeds the soul, and the soul is very important. It's superficial conversations only work for certain things. In other situations, we do need to have conversations where we are much more authentic.
Yeah. Wonderful, thank you. And so it sort of leads quite nicely into a question about Empower and the business club and what that means. And we're trying to ensure that our members have got a community around them of other people with a similar mindset, who are looking for the same things, but equally somewhere where you can go to celebrate, share a win, or ask for help if you need it. So what's the best thing about Empower for you, Claire?
It's a tricky one. The best thing. Can I only have one?
No, as many as you like.
Because there are so many tangible and intangible benefits of being part of a collective, really, where everyone has the same agenda, and that agenda is that everyone wants the best for everyone.
Yeah.
And you know, to come together with a group of people who, and the skill set is just mind-boggling. Sometimes, you know, we've got people who specialise in certain types of HR and people who do health and safety. We've got people like me who do kinesiology, and then we've got massage therapists, and you've got tax accountants and social media people and coaches and diet coach, you know, you name it, everything is there. And to be able to sort of walk into this metaphorical space and say, I don't know about X, who can help me? Or I'm supposed to be doing this thing, but I've got no idea what it is, who can help me? Or when I press the button, why doesn't it do that? Right through to, how do I write a business plan? How do I get my courses out there? How do I get more customers? You know, the whole sort of team that if you worked in a business, all of those people would have a desk somewhere and you'd be able to go and talk to them. And we don't really acknowledge that. But as a business person, you know, in the singular, we have to be all of those people. We have to be able to wear all of those hats. And whether we actually know that part of the business, we have to put that hat on and say, right, I'm going to go out and find it then. Because you can't run a business without marketing. You can't run a business without insurance. You can't run a business without all of these different things that aren't necessarily the thing that you're really passionate about or very knowledgeable about. Yeah. So be able to walk into this space and almost sort of flop down on the sofa and go, oh, who can tell me about X, is so liberating, because it's not a case of having to go, right, I know all about this thing, but, and pretend like you know, it's so just freeing to sort of walk into the sort of metaphorical staff room and say, oh, I've got no idea about X. And then to have people who have technical expertise as well as ideas. You know, you can ask for a platform to do something and people will give you, they could give you half a dozen different platforms that they've used, and they'll tell you why they're good, what they like about them, what they don't like about them. So you feel like you're getting a really informed and professional choice, really. And you're not made to feel that you've got to do it a certain way, or this is the way we run a business, here's the manual. You know, you can still run your business your way and let go of some of that load of having to be the expert in absolutely everything, because that is really just not feasible. And the other bit of it that I don't know if people know this, so it might be a secret between you and me, Kerry. If it is, you'll have to edit this bit out. Right. But did you know that running your business can actually be enjoyable?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, did you know it can be fun? Dare I say? And that's the bit that Empower brings in bucket loads, really. And it's not inane, frivolous fun. It's, you know, we have a laugh about things, we go networking, we all have a great time. And part of the reason for that is because you are with like-minded people. And it's not competitive. It's not people saying, well, my product better than your product. You know, the collaborations that happen in Empower are second to none. And people often ask me why I'm so sort of passionate about Empower. And I tell them that I was a professional networker for 15 years. You know, part of my job was to go out and tell people about the products and the services and the courses and the things that we were running to help people run their own businesses. So I've probably spent thousands of hours networking with probably hundreds of different organizations. And hands down, the networking that I do with Empower is the most enjoyable and therefore the most productive networking that I've ever done. Because we all know if you go into somewhere and you feel uncomfortable, you're not going to shine. Whereas if you walk into or Zoom into a networking event and you feel comfortable and you feel relaxed, you know, suddenly all of those worries have gone. And it's just such a nice place to be.
Yeah. So kind of more specifically, have you got any examples of what it's done for your business?
Absolutely. I mean, I wrote a book. I wrote a book which I started about 2 years ago, and I published it last year, end of last year. And it was a book based on what I do with my kinesiology. And it was a workbook. So it was the whole part of the idea of it was that there's colouring so that people can sort of divert and engage their right brain while we're playing around with ideas and concepts and things all related to the Chinese 5 elements. And I needed some illustrations because I can't draw. That's not me putting myself down. I really can't draw. And I needed an illustrator. And in the group, we had various illustrators. And I'd seen the work of one person and I really loved it. And I was able to have conversations with her to make sure that we could work together and to build a relationship with her and to say to her, I'd love you to do some of the illustrations for my book, would that be okay? And to really sort of organically get into a situation where I was comfortable that I was going to get the illustrations that I wanted, that I was working with somebody that I could communicate with, that it was somebody who was respectful of my process, because my process was I disappear down a rabbit hole and you don't hear from me for months and then I'm back again, because I'm very focused on what I'm doing. And, to be able to be in that position with somebody, and it's a whole sort of trust relationship, and to then produce something at the end of it, you can go, wow, I'm really, really proud of this. Absolutely. And that the other person is proud to have put their name to as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's made a huge difference in things like that, which, I see now as being quite simple. Whereas I know other friends who are writing books and wanting illustrations, and it's a really difficult process for them.
And one of the questions we get asked a lot is about networking and the sort of benefits of it, and whether you actually get business out of it and come away with leads after a meeting. Can you sort of talk a bit about whether you've had any business from anyone within Empower?
Absolutely. Well, you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm not from around here. I moved to Yorkshire 9 years ago and I didn't know a single person when I moved here. I moved up with a job, and about 2 years after I moved up, the job ended. And I decided to stay, and I decided to jump in and finally to commit to running full-time my own business. So I still didn't really know anybody. And I've built my whole business on networking. The only reason I know you is because I met you networking. The only reason I know Tracy is because I went networking. And the thing that I would say about it is that who do you know and who do you want to know? When you think about all of the friends that you have, how did you meet them? If you met them at school, you met them networking because you were thrown into a room with them and you had to have a conversation with them. And I think people they put a narrative around networking, which, don't get me wrong, some networking organisations are very sort of uncomfortable to be in and they feel very pressurised. But the joy of having such a sort of free and flexible networking arrangement is that you can have just ordinary conversations with people about stuff, about business stuff and life stuff. And it then spurs you on to have more conversations with more people. That went all right, And you end up with this, we all want to have a really good business reputation, not just for what we do, but also for who we are. So I know as well that if I meet somebody else, and I'm walking my dog or I'm at another networking event and they need, I don't know, a copywriter, I can say, yep, there you go, have a chat with that person. Because I know 4 or 5 copywriters from my networking, and I think that person will suit you. You put them in touch with that person. So I feel comfortable as well then that I'm not going to put them in touch with some random person who I don't really know. And they're going to think better of me. They think, oh, Claire's quite a handy person to know. And they're going to be introduced to somebody who can help them along their way. And networking is really all about sharing. And some people come to networking and they think I have nothing to share. And that's okay, because some days we don't have anything to share. But you'd be surprised, once you get there, somebody will ask you a question and you'll think, oh yeah, actually I do know someone, or I do know something. And people will ask us questions that we didn't even realise we knew the answer to. And how did you get your leaflets printed, or how did you choose the colours for your business, or where do you get your insurance from? And as business people, there are things that we do all the time, and we forget that some people don't know how to do those things. And that whole sort of ideal of just sharing information is a really powerful place to come from. And it's not about sort of firm handshakes and thrusting business cards at each other. It's a much more genuine experience. And it's one of the things I love about Empower Networking. You don't even have to take a business card, because everybody puts their information in online, and then it gets emailed out to everybody. So you know everything about everybody, how to get hold of them, what they do, what their name is, and you don't have to worry about that, which again relieves more pressure. So if you want to build your business, absolutely. If you want to build the not just the people that you work with, you know, your client base, but if you want to build your business skill base as well, networking with Empower is absolutely the way to go.
Wow, thank you. You've sort of covered some of this already. But why should others join Empower Business Club?
It's a tricky one, because obviously there is a financial investment in it, and there always is with anything in business. And I would say, if you're at a stage where you want to do the best by your business and you want your business to do the best by you, then Empower is the natural progression, really. Because when we commit to something, it's scary. You know, it's like when we have children. I mean, I've got a little dog, and I read all the right books and spoke to the vet. You know, you want to get advice from the best people, and you want to get advice that you can use and that empowers you. Yeah, that's what it's called, Empower. And to be in a space where everybody's signed up for that, everybody's ticked that box, why wouldn't you, really? And but it is about being in that place when you are ready. When you're ready to say, yes, I'm going to do this thing now, that's the time really to jump in and say, yeah, come on, let's do this. And to know as well, and to trust that you will be welcomed, and you will be supported, and you will be embraced within a sort of a community, a collective of people who are all going to, you know, every time something goes well, they're going to be there, and they're going to stand up, and they're going to whoop and holler and say, yes, well done, you did that thing. Just as much as if something goes wrong or you don't know about something, they're going to gather around, as women do, and go, how can we help you? What do you need? And, you know, if you would like some of that in your life and in your business, then it's the place to be. If you don't want it, that's fine, you know, that's cool. But I'd say if you're ready and you want that kind of really supportive environment, then I'd say that would be the time and the idea really to join Empower.
Thank you, Claire. That's been absolutely fantastic and wonderful to hear your story and inspiration behind what you do for as a business, and yeah, just the value that you clearly kind of get from Empower Business Club, and your infectious sort of passion about that and your business is wonderful to see. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry.